Freedom is the right to tell what they do not want to hear. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tired of the same repetitive government narratives? Then wave goodbye to the distractions and rhetoric of corporate media. For this is Anti-Media Radio.
But I want to get the language right.
The big government is in trouble.
You're all a bunch of slaves! Bunch of slaves!
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
What's your definition of media?
And now, here's your host, S.M. Gibson.
My name is S.M. Gibson, and this is Anti-Media Radio, July the 14th, 2015. Your home of alternative news to get away from the corporate agenda and the mainstream narrative. So far in 2015, 620 Americans have been killed by police officers. 64 police officers have died in the line of duty as well. The city of Chicago, with their strict gun laws, have seen 1,425 people shot in the streets, as well as 248 homicides. And Saudi Arabia is still on the blackout, with 100 beheadings so far this year being reported. That is definitely a topic that we discuss in length, and ever since they hit the 100 mark, nothing has come out of the country since. We do know from the wiki cables that Saudi Arabia is definitely in control of a lot of the media financially throughout the world, and we are seeing it in effect with the numbers completely drying up. Bear with me tonight, a little bit under the weather, but we're going to get through the show and try to get some information out to everybody. Joined here in the studio tonight is Mr. Chase Madden. Chase, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, SM. I'm doing great, man.
And also joining the studio, Mr. Daniel Perez. Daniel.
I'm doing awesome, or great also.
And these two men are going to try to help me steer my way through the show. Hopefully I won't go off on a rant or just pass out here or whatever's going on. So there's a lot going on in the news, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the VA situation happening, which has not really been reported very widely at all, and I just think it's an absolutely terrifying stat that we have seen over 200,000 veterans die waiting to get health care from the VA.
I mean, that's ridiculous. To have over 200,000 veterans who have gone and, of course, served for our country, dying as they're waiting to receive health care, I mean, that's the epitome of the whole entire, system of government that we are under, of course. But it's like, when I read that stat, I was wondering, why is it that the people who actually sent them to war, the congressman, the president, they, of course, you serve one term in your lifetime as even a representative, you have the best health care there is.
Right.
But unfortunately, the people who actually serve our country and
doing it, putting in the work, putting in the dirty work.
And
exactly.
Here's the scary part too. It's 1/3 of veterans who are enrolled. So out of 847,822 people, 238,657 people died before they could get treatment. And this is a leaked document from the VA. It's called the Analysis of Death Services. And, of course, the VA is trying to act like this isn't a big deal.
Because they're acting like it's not a big deal, because it is a big deal.
It is.
I mean, the fact that we treat our American veterans, as second-class citizens, essentially,
It's one-third. It's
beyond.
One-third of veterans waiting for health care, basically.
I mean, one-third, that's insane.
So out of every 3 veterans you see on the street, one of them is going to die before the VA even gives 2 tosses about it. And the irony of that, to me, is talking about, well, we support the troops, we support the troops. No, you support sending the troops over to die, but when they're back here and they should be taken care of, nobody does anything for them.
Just suck it up.
You don't support our troops that actually, fight the wars that you had initiated or, approved of. I mean, it's baffling to me.
That people that have this sense of they're cheerleaders for war and they do it under the guise of supporting the troops. But if they supported the troops, then this stat wouldn't exist.
Yeah, they would get health care.
This is what people would be, waving their flags on the street corner for, would be this stat about how all these veterans who were sent overseas.
But instead, it's the whole rally around the flag, blah blah blah, and we of course support our troops once they're overseas. But once they return, our government can't support the VA with the amount of money that they need to give our veterans the health care that they need. Instead, they of course put it many other places that, I won't even begin to go into. But another thing I want to touch on this, which is kind of it angered me, is I want to see our congressmen. It angers me that one representative, as a representative, can serve one term and have the greatest health insurance ever for a lifetime.
Oh, they got the best health insurance in the world, man. We can get that straight right now.
Well, of course they do. They are congressmen. They are royalty, essentially.
Which is what they become, obviously. That's kind of what they turn into, and that's what's so scary, is that they become these elites from one term. But here's another question.
I don't want to see them to be elite. That is what is bullshit, in my opinion.
They shouldn't be.
They should. Yeah, our veterans, honestly, in my opinion, should get better health care and better pay on top of than what our congressmen.
But see, here's the thing,
these men are the ones they're the ones going on the front lines, risking their lives.
I would love, granted,
what
I know there has been a certain amount of our congrrismen who have been in the military and actually have served their country.
But it ain't
but
that
the
many.
majority haven't.
It ain't that many.
But I think, where I agree with y'all at the same time, as well, we're talking about we want the government to run our health care in this country, okay? Mm-hmm. We're seeing an example of the government running the health care system through the VA. And one-third of people are dying before they even get help.
The government running anything, look at the post office, our postal system. It's bankrupt. Are you serious? The government running
in this
any
country's not
entity
bankrupt?
that... that's
it's all
story,
about,
but,
it all has these good intentions. Any program, but they're skimming off the top and what little leavings they can to just, throw into it. It's kind of like when you see those charity programs where it says portion of the proceeds are going to such and such.
No,
it's kind of like with any other program within our government, our system of government.
In my opinion, it's the media, along with maybe it's the media. It definitely is the media, but following the political aspect of it from our congressmen, who are rally around the flag, support our troops. They come back home, and then, as the statistic has just shown, they're dying in large numbers. That is just ridiculous.
Before they can even get treatment.
Exactly, and this is such a small, not small, but such a simple problem to fix, and that is, give them more funding. I'm sorry that they are so...
But the government, you got to remember, I tell you what,
when they're so backlogged...
I tell you what, before we get to this point, I want to go ahead and bring on our guest for the evening, Miss Claire Burnish. Claire, how you doing, dear?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. Okay, so tell us what's going on in your world tonight. I know you've got a couple of big stories up on the antimedia.org right now.
Yes. I think one story that isn't, I don't think it's getting quite the attention it should, is the American Psychological Association psychologists might as well have been actively participating in CIA torture. They, by omission, more or less, they brought their ethics standards up to meet the Department of Defense's, where the Department of Defense was sort of, kind of justifying torture through their policy. And instead of the APA going in and adjusting the standards of ethics so that torture couldn't happen, they just kind of matched the DOD so that it could.
The scary thing about that article to me, Claire, was that they basically changed the definition of the word ethics to fit around the word torture as opposed to the way it should be. And, the guy in charge of ethics should say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this.
Right, exactly. And they just sort of, they knew, there's no way, according to this report that's it's almost 550 pages, but there's no way they couldn't have known that torture was going on, like very extreme torture. And instead of doing anything to stop it, they basically green-lighted it for the Department of Defense, for the Pentagon, for the CIA. They didn't do anything to stop it when they really obviously should have. They were in a position where they could have written the policy to say, hey, there's no way this is acceptable, but instead they just basically said, yes, it is.
And the scary thing is, I think so much of this that's gone on, we've done, movements about torture, we've done a few hashtag storms about torture. We've done days against torture with multiple people and activists that we all know. And it doesn't get the attention that it needs because it doesn't happen here in this country and they don't see it. So they, just kind of like, whatever. It doesn't affect me.
Well, see,
exactly. But, you let something happen somewhere and you open the door for anything anywhere. I just think that should be emphasized. There is a tendency to kind of ignore anything that happens overseas, but now that we're all globalized, there's a chance that anything can happen here that we allow to happen elsewhere. And when we don't stand up, and say, hey, this is wrong, then I just think it leaves that door wide open. I don't think that's a good idea.
I think it absolutely does. I think that even what you just said kind of ties into the NDAA and, the whole, we can just start rounding people up without trying them and definitely detain them. And,
exactly.
And that completely ties into what you're saying. And yet, it's not happening yet. It's like Obama said when Ben Swann questioned him, I'm not going to do it. So
right.
That's the thing. We don't do it. I've read many, many articles throughout my lifetime pertaining to torture from America on our captives, military-wise. But the thing is, I've always read that they send them to, for instance, Saudi Arabia, even Russia, back before when we actually had good relations with Russia. They send them overseas, or rather, they give them control of them so they can torture them. So that way we don't have our hands dirty. But essentially we still do,
But I think
just because we pass it on to someone else doesn't mean that it's not us.
We do the same thing with our arms trafficking.
But I think that we've actually been caught, especially with what's happened, with Abu Dhabi and that entire situation. We've been caught red-handed doing it.
Exactly.
We have, but think also about Homan Square and the black site with the Chicago police.
Absolutely.
There was torture there.
Yeah. You're completely right.
And that's people going completely off the grid, disappearing for days, no charge, no jury, no trial, no anything.
Exactly. If people see it overseas and they say it can't happen here, look around. It always does. Once that door is open, no matter if they say they're not going to use it or not, once they open it, it's available.
And that's the thing, as soon, and I think that's how they introduce this stuff to society, is it's very incremental. And they say, you hear these rumors of it happening here. Well, that's not happening to me, so it's no big deal.
It's never introduced.
It's never going to be me and my family. And the next thing you know, it is you and your family, and it's too late to do anything about it.
Exactly. The same thing with, surveillance in the surveillance state now. And, we used to see, at least when I was really young, we would hear stories about, the USSR and stuff with all their surveillance, and, now we have it. I don't know. I don't think people pay quite enough attention to the things in the context of it's always possible here once it's possible anywhere. with the military law of war manual that came out, they said specifically that the rules of war basically apply anywhere in the world. So, there's that door.
And I hate to be too Alex Jones, George H.W. Bush about this, but it really is kind of a new world order, this one global empire, even though we all have different separate, nation states with different names, we're all kind of doing the same thing at this point.
Well, we're all connected on the same old little line of trade, Dylan, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, sadly, it's the laws of war, in my opinion. Granted, I'm not for that at all, but unfortunately, we have those, military hawks that have been in the military for their entire lives, and they think this is the only way we can extract any information from these people, and they haven't tried anything different, and by maybe offering them a better life here in the United States, bringing their family.
Well,
over,
we could even take
them.
We've just got done talking about we can't take care of our own veterans. So what are we talking about here?
Okay, well, I understand that, and I guess that plays in the whole picture of everything else.
But I tell you what, speaking of the military, Claire, you've got another story up too that's just absolutely fascinating that we were just sitting here just going over and over before the show tonight. Tell us about that a little bit.
I did the Hollow Point thing with the Army.
Yeah, that's just fascinating.
Yeah, the Army is apparently going to be switching to Hollow Point ammunition over what they've used for a long, long time, which is this full metal jacket ball ammunition. And they're doing this because they claim it's a humanitarian thing to do, which is interesting considering that the Hague Convention said
in 1907, yes.
Said that expanding and fragmenting ammunition is considered excessive and basically cruel and unusual because it causes so much damage inside a person. And they're saying that, ball ammunition can pass through the target person and into an innocent bystander, so they're justified in doing this. But at the same time, that the convention exists for a reason, and basically we're just saying, well, nobody else is sticking to that principle, so why should we bother doing it either?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you kind of the conversation we started having about it tonight. And
well, I mean, with a hollow point, especially, you have, which I disagree with the fact that it's inhumane. I mean, I think it's inhumane.
It is to the person. Well, first off, it clearly is inhumane to the
honestly,
person.
If you're getting shot, you're getting shot for a reason. Well, I'd say 90% of the time.
Well, no, here's the deal.
But if you have a projectile, like a full metal jacket, you're shooting a terrorist who is literally trying to kill a Marine or an American citizen, for that matter, and then it passes through, and the projectile is slowed down so much that then it, goes through another person, and then it's stuck within that person, a civilian, a bystander. That's inhumane. I'm a gun owner, I will admit, and I do have in my weapon, because I have it for defensive purposes, but I have hollow points. And I have hollow points because if, God forbid, something happened and I actually have to shoot an intruder or something, I would not want a full metal jacket bullet passing through that intruder into my next door neighbor and, possibly killing them or injuring them. And so with that, said, I agree on that aspect. But at the same time, I kind of, once I heard that, it made me speculate. As a military man, if I were, I've never been in the military. I'm very, I do support our military. But if I were in the field and I was in the middle of, let's say, for instance, Afghanistan back in the heyday, and I had nothing but hollow points in my, in my ammunition loaded into my weapon. And I am ambushed by, let's say, one vehicle with 5 individuals in it that is, for instance, maybe ISIS, who has, majority of our Humvees that are armored. And I'm shooting at that Humvee with nothing but a hollow point. I'm not going to be able to penetrate any point of that Humvee. And so what I'm trying to say with that is, there has to be something else. Being, another reason why they're transitioning. I mean, if it's just strictly special forces, trying to go in and, kill Osama bin Laden and not wanting to injure his family, I understand that. But if it's throughout the entire army, I mean, that's a whole different subject in my opinion.
Well, they're commissioning almost 300,000 new weapons because they're switching from the M9 Beretta to the they call it the XM17. And the idea is that they're looking for new ammunition for this new weapon.
To make it more deadly. And I don't understand that concept. I'm sorry.
Why? What?
Well, I mean, I have an M9 myself, and I mean, it's as deadly as it could possibly be. I mean, we have ammunition that literally explodes, explosive ammunition, if they want to make things more deadly. That is a different story. I would imagine that's probably more of the whole military compound, whatnot, whatever, I forget what it's called. But what I'm trying to say with this, though, with the ammunition part, there is a different agenda, I believe.
I think what you're trying to say is why is the military trying to placate, saving civilians, but at the same time...
Well, yeah, I mean, if they want to save so many civilians, then let's stop, the whole entire drone warfare that we're doing.
Right. I mean, we could go down that road forever,
that.
Right. But at the same time, you're saying, why are they taking this ammunition that is more precise to the person instead of just sweeping? What's the agenda? Are they going to use it internally here? Or are they going to use it domestically? States. Right. I think that's where you're going with it.
That's what the point I was saying, and I didn't really say it out loud. Because, I mean, in my opinion, again, pertaining to that, I think having our soldiers walking around, patrolling with nothing but hollow points, that threatens them. That endangers them more so than, I digress on this opinion.
I could go on. Odd. They were saying that the clips could hold more ammunition too because the hollow points are smaller. I don't know. It just seems like you said, it seems like there's more of a different agenda that is kind of not being discussed. But
absolutely, I agree.
A hollow point can't even strike through a car. I mean, a regular vehicle.
And I tell you what, Daniel brought this up, Claire, and me and you have discussed this off air a little bit, and we won't get into it too deep before we leave you here tonight. But Afghanistan, me and you have talked about this. Me and you think there's something going on. We don't know quite what's going on yet.
Yeah, I'm fairly convinced there's something very messed up going on there. The budget figures don't seem to add up. There's a raid that happened that certainly doesn't add up. There are too many mistakes clerical mistakes and missing money. And
we're not talking about a little bit of missing money either. We're talking a lot of money.
Right, like billions. And I don't know. It's like any one or two of these items on their own might be understandable, but when you start to step back and look at the entire picture, something just does not sit right at all.
I completely agree, and we were both researching it today, and it's just I think at this point it's on our part it is still speculation, but all the facts are pointing to something very nefarious that doesn't look right at all with what the U.S. government is still to this day involved in with Afghanistan, despite all of Obama's rhetoric.
Well, even just looking at the one report alone, that the kind of a watchdog group was checking up on the number of clinics, and they asked the Pentagon for the GPS coordinates and the longitude-latitude coordinates of where these clinics were supposed to be, and over half of them weren't. There was nothing there when they went to actually check up on the coordinates. There was nothing there. And, the Pentagon says, oh, well, that happens. Maybe we were off. But it's, no, not with your technology. That just isn't possible. Sorry.
My telephone can tell the government where I'm at right now. And they're just all over the place with this, with important quote-unquote things.
I mean, Afghanistan's such a corrupt country. I've always heard and read, even have heard stories from military captains and colonels that money has been taken to essentially buy off the Afghanis to go there.
But you're missing the point. I think what you're trying to insinuate is Afghanistan's the corrupt country. But who's the person paying? Yeah, right. Who's the person that's providing all the information? Who's the person paying the money? That's the United States government.
Everyone wants to think of Afghanistan like it's the United States. We have we are separate entities with 50 states, but yet we are just the exact same people, and we can easily agree on things. That's not the case in
But
Afghanistan.
that even would be understandable on its own. Like, that would even make sense to a certain degree. But with all of the other factors in consideration, particularly looking in light of the raid that we did illegally, I mean, there's just too many mitigating circumstances that don't add up.
And that's the thing, Claire. Like, you wrote about the raid that happened and the protests that followed, and that's not being reported anywhere.
Right.
That's terrifying that we sit here and harp on this and harp on that, and we're talking about, back to the beginning of the show, we support our troops. Well, the troops are doing something, so let's talk about it. No, that never happened.
Right.
That's just terrifying to me how they spin the agenda, and when real things are happening, they ignore it because that doesn't serve their interests.
Right. I mean, there's just too much. There's something going on, and it doesn't seem like anybody's really looking into it, and it doesn't really seem like anybody cares. But once again, this is something where, we let this happen somewhere, and it's going to happen somewhere else too. And we're talking a lot of money, and it's mostly taxpayer money that is going to fund this stuff, or money that we borrowed from other governments. So, I mean, ultimately, it's up to us to kind of call attention to this, and I don't know. It just doesn't seem like anybody cares.
I think you're right. I'll tell you, the cynic side of me. I tell you the reason I don't think people care initially is because we've heard, the name Afghanistan for 14 years now, and you hear that come up, and you're just, you kind of roll your eyes and be like, yeah, I know we're over there, blah blah blah. And I think that's what the average American does, and they just hear Afghanistan. Oh, I get it. We're over there, and I don't think they want to pursue looking into it any deeper. And I think that gives the United States government basically a blank check to do whatever they want because nobody cares.
Right. And I had reported before on Iraq and the number of civilian casualties there, and it's well over 1 million for sure. After looking in and investigating what the numbers actually represent, but I was reading a scholar's book today that actually reported the number over 1 million back in 2008. So, and people look at that number, and I guess maybe it's just incomprehensible or something, but they just kind of brush it off like it's nothing. But I mean, that's a very serious offense. Those are people that if we had never invaded, they would still be going about their lives. So. Absolutely.
I mean, we had the story up yesterday about there's been at least 15,000 civilians killed in Iraq since January of 2014, and that's no big deal. People don't care.
Right.
I mean, think about how many people were killed in 9/11, and then think about that. How many more people that is.
That's what it takes for us to care as Americans. It takes an attack on our soil. Because I mean, unfortunately,
it's selfishness.
Well, not unfortunately. Very glad that us as an American that we can have the freedom to have our society, that we are just completely not necessarily ignorant, but occupied with our culture here in the States. But
well, I'll tell you,
ignorance is bliss, of course.
I'll tell you what makes people concerned is when you involve the word freedom in anything. Freedom's under attack. Oh man, we got to be a freedom.
And that's the whole rallying around the flag aspect of it.
Look at
that only occurs once our politicians, especially our president, for instance, George Bush, when he wanted to implement his agenda on the Middle East. But I mean, with the whole entire corruption, us paying off politicians, blah blah blah. I mean, that unfortunately has been occurring in our country since I would even say the Revolutionary War. But of course, it slowly throughout time progressed more and more so, and nowadays, today, our contemporary era, it is just blown out of proportion. That it is. I mean, I can't even comprehend the corruption that's going on. I can only read about it and try to inform my fellow citizens, my friends, blah blah blah. But I mean, it's up to them to kind of research it themselves. And unfortunately, the big time media programs they don't, like as you stated, they don't report on this because.
Well, here's what they do, and forgive me, Claire, and see if you agree with me on this, Claire. And we all know that I've got my big mouth and blah blah blah, and this is kind of how I work at what we do with anti-media. I don't hide the fact. I'm not ashamed of it. I think people react off of emotion. And I believe that's how
Everyone-
I believe that the United States government does everything they do because they manipulate people's emotions.
Exactly.
And for me,
Well, they do.
if you can
Is
present
it the
a
United
story,
States government, though?
It
or is it
is.
society?
it is the government
it
because
our-
there's something
Well,
deeper going on. And
yeah,
for me,
it is the
if you
government.
can,
everything on
if
that
you can
aspect of it.
present the truth, the real deal facts to somebody and present it to them with a little bit of emotion, they'll respond to it. Because that is what the government is using for everybody.
That
they
is
get
true.
flags.
Yep.
They get,
Absolutely.
They
Hell yeah.
edit the
And I'm not
they edit
ashamed
the
of
media
that.
the way they want. I mean, that's why the White House, the White House correspondents, blah blah blah. As I'm sitting here looking at Obama on Fox News right now, he says what he wants to say, and then the media from the White House, go to the entire six or five big time, CNN media corporations,
It's
and
six.
they
Six to be
portray it
exact.
out to the nation. And unfortunately, all of us citizens, well, a majority of us citizens, think that we are getting nothing but the, verbatim truth. And as we know, that is not the verbatim truth. There is more to the story. There always is more to the story.
People
It's
just
just
having
an
an act.
agenda behind
Right.
the edited
It's
the
an act.
edited news that we
they're
receive.
just having their emotions pulled
And so,
and
and so
drug
that
in the right
causes
direction.
them to become subjective once, stories like this go out and, the truth actually hits the American population and they believe that, this has got to be false.
And when
Because
has the
CNN
truth
didn't
hit
say
the
this,
American?
Fox
When has the
didn't say
truth hit the American people? Tell me, when's that happened?
When has it? I mean, honestly, the truth has always hit the American people.
When? Give me an
Uh,
example on mainstream media.
on mainstream media?
Right.
Never.
Right. Exactly.
I mean,
All
in
they
this
do is-
contemporary era, they've got the power of the world. I mean, the information of the world at their fingertips. You got a cell phone, a smartphone, you can Google it. I'm sorry. I mean, if you see a story,
Go ahead, Claire.
I'm sorry.
The thing is with mainstream media, too, is that a lot of the outlets that people rely on at one time had elements of truth when they reported, particularly the papers. A long time ago, they were more objective or at least less of a propaganda arm, and now they just really are, and people just still trust them. They trust the reputation, so they follow them anyway.
I will say even way back when, I think it was a Mark Twain quote. He even said that, hey, you still need to be wary of what you hear from other people. And he was particularly referencing the papers and stuff like that. I'm not saying there wasn't truth back then, but
No, I think what Claire just said though is just hit the nail on the head because I think
Right.
people, I think they grew up with these institutions and they trusted in these institutions. I think the same way with not only the media or ABC or NBC or CBS or whatever it may be, but with the government as well. And you trusted these entities not to lie to you. And it became kind of inbred in you to trust it. And now that we're in this world where everything has become such an illusion and a lie, that you still fall back to, believing in these things that you ought not do because it makes you feel comfortable.
right.
Well, I mean, media is supposed to act as the watchdog, and instead they're acting as government's lapdog. I mean, there's a huge difference.
You absolutely know. I mean, they have literally become the Joseph Goebbels of the United States.
Right.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Amen. Amen to that, man.
You guys killed the cow already.
Manny.
What's up, man?
What's up? How you doing, man? You guys are killing the cow. Let's move on to some other serious stuff.
Well, I tell you what, Claire, thank you so much for calling in tonight, dear.
Absolutely. You guys have a good night.
Yes,
You
ma'am,
too,
you
Claire.
too.
You too.
Bye.
Well, want to say hi to Brother FM Gibson, Brother Chase Madden, and the other brother. Who's the other brother? Because I don't even connect with him, not even on the page and stuff like that,
Daniel Perez.
Perez?
Yes.
Hey, ¿cómo estás? ¿Bien?
Unfortunately, I do not speak Spanish that well. I wish I did.
Okay, well, how do you anyway, stuff like that? So, we've been down here monitoring a lot of good stuff out here, man. It's just, going down to fighting the Tea Party and stuff like that. I haven't been called a wetback in God knows how long, and I probably got called 6 times at least, a lot of hate, that Donald Trump makes everybody else look normal. I mean, seriously, just boycotting him down here at the hotel, basically with our slogan, dump the Trump and stuff like that, he thinks he's so hot and stuff like that. But now he's scared because, you know, and Chapo just, he told him, I'm coming to get you, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, he tweeted that out. I thought that was very, very interesting. Like literally a day after his escape. Man,
Yeah.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to know what the atmosphere is down in Mexico after Guzman had escaped. Like, what's the general population think about this?
Well, the general population basically knows that he got help from the inside. With his money, his connection, a lot of the corruption is inside. You know, the whole system, you know, it's so easy for a colonel to have, or even a captain to go in there and says, you know what, I'm taking a Chapo under my command. And then all of a sudden he can come up with a story like, oh, he escaped. I didn't have enough soldiers with me or something like that, you know. So it's crazy, you know, and in the right mind knows that, you know, he didn't just, you know. But at the same time, I will tell you something that you don't hear on regular media, and I hear it from my journalists that are risking their lives every day, friends of mine in Mexico.
And this is what
a lot of people love El Chapo because El Chapo has done a lot for the poor people and stuff like that, you know. Something that the government hasn't done, you know?
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine from Honduras, me and him got to talking one day at work. We started talking and stuff, and he pretty much laid it down. You know, my wife's a Mexican, so, you know, I'm exposed to a lot of this. But he started telling me that a lot of these cartel guys, it's not like the American media makes it out. He said a lot of these cartel guys, they actually help a lot of the poor people in a lot of these poor parts of like Mexico and Central America and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's correct, actually, and stuff like that, you know. So, and of course he got offended, you know, because Trump didn't just say Mexicans, he said all Mexicans. So that included me, you know, when he says rapists and, you know, all this stuff, and now he's scared. He's calling the FBI.
That's an ignorant comment, I will admit, but
yeah, and it's crazy and stuff like that, you know. But we're in a country here. You guys were talking about a subject earlier. Is we have you know, where the homeless, you know, people don't understand. In the homeless, we have a lot of veterans homeless. You know how sad that is. On top of waiting in the VA, we've got people in the streets that are homeless, and I'm talking about. It's just amazing. It's just amazing.
Well, I mean, like you were just touching on how, especially I'm sure in the state of Sonora, you know, Chapo is seen as, you know, basically the people love him more than they love the president because he gives back to the community.
Yeah, they made a song after him. He's like a hero basically for a lot of people in my country, stuff like that, and it's just amazing and stuff like that, you know, and so. But, you know, I don't want people in Mexico to think everybody's like Donald Trump down here and stuff like that, you know.
And I don't want everyone in Mexico to think like we're all like Donald Trump, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You know, actually, a friend of mine from the Telemundo, he saw you know, Shannon's picture, and I said, "It's okay, bro. He's my Venado brother. He's not migra because he had this haircut, you know." Mm-hmm. I said, "No, he's not immigration. He's a good guy."
But I mean, as the you know, as a Mexican citizen yourself, I mean, with the president Enrique Felipe, or I forget his last name, Enrique though, right?
Enrique Peña Nieto.
Yeah. So he has his entire administration has, you know, that was his number one thing, to combat the Mexican cartels, and then this occurs. But yet, like you just stated, the Mexican people, especially in his home state, Chapo Guzman's home state, still love him more than they do the administration. So what, I mean...
Exactly. Actually, they love him so much that you won't hear it on the media here and you know, in your regular media, you know, that actually people would like to see a Chapo run for president. I mean, that's how bad our corruption is with the regular politicians, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if that happened, I don't think the United States would allow that, honestly.
I mean, they would, but I tell you what, Manny, it reminds me of...
we're so corrupt.
It reminds me very much of a modern-day Robin Hood. I mean, that seems exactly what it is. You know, you've got this guy that, you know, he's against the system, but he's helping the people, you know... Mm-hmm. And who are the people going to, you know, respond to? They're going to go to the person that's actually seemingly cares about them. Now, at the end of the day, Manny, do you think that
it's human nature?
That that either the government or the cartels, do you think they actually care about the people, or you think that both entities are still caring about themselves ultimately and are willing to sell out both sides? Or do you think that it's a genuine, concern for the people?
Well, it's actually more people are against the government because they're now mad at the American government, and I should say the U.S. government, because when you say America, you're making it look like it's just the United States, and people should know that Americans are bigger than that,
Not at all.
And the bottom line is they're sending so much equipment and all this new equipment and stuff like that, so the people down there do not trust the government from here or our government. They trust the cartels a lot more. If they're going to pick one, they'd rather just get at least one thing they say about the cartels. If they're going to say they're going to do something, they do it, including killing you. If they're going to tell you they're going to kill you, they're going to do it. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. So that's kind of sad in a way.
Exactly. It's very sad. I think it's very sad that. Granted, I'm glad it's a Robin Hood type of situation, but the fact that a drug cartel that actually that's where they get the majority of their money, well, all of their money rather, is cherished by the people more so than the Mexican government. And granted, I will say, that's maybe a similarity here in the United States, but not on any same scale with a drug cartel or anything. But just the amount of corruption. What I guess I'm trying to base this off of is the amount of corruption the Mexican government has, and all they do is combat, and of course President Enrique came in, and he increased it tenfold, and it's caused even more chaos that it's turned more people to Chapo Guzman. When is it going to be a matter of can we settle our differences and work together, and then maybe they'll decide not to, grow so many drugs and ship them to the United States, and then us. Yeah.
Well, this is the main thing that's happening. FM and everybody else. Basically, the problem, when we get a good candidate, the United States is one of the things that I hope it's not going to blow you away, but the truth is true. It's not opinion. Okay, this is facts. Is that when we do have a good candidate, the United States has basically a legacy, and I want to say a legacy, that they can make anybody look like a criminal, even if they're honest to the max. It's just amazing when we get a good guy. The United States tears him down because obviously this country wants somebody down there that will be a puppet to this country and stuff like that. That's just a set.
Manny, we've seen that in this country with Ron Paul. You can't have. Not that there's many legitimate candidates that run in this country, but look at somebody like Donald Trump, okay? Now, to me, Donald Trump is very moot point, but at the same time, he has a lot of financial backing because, to me, Donald Trump is irrelevant because he's a joke. It's like he doesn't represent anybody other than himself. And this doesn't, represent a country or this or that. It's a cartoon character, and it's a piece of theater. And it's just everybody look over here at this is what's happening right now. Meanwhile, whoever they're going to elect, because we both know, Manny, for a fact, Donald Trump will never, ever, ever, ever become president in this country.
Who knows?
Well.
He's not going to become president.
Have you ever heard the term populist?
He's not. He's not.
The term populist is.
They've thrown the craziest person out there they could.
Look at America somebody today.
It doesn't matter. Look, they've thrown the craziest person out there they could to get all this attention.
No, Donald Trump did it himself. He's Donald Trump.
Hey, it don't matter. It don't matter. The whole country can
Manny, pretending back to Mexico, but
the
Americans up here arguing about the next presidential election.
Well, the whole country could like somebody, but he ain't gonna win because the whole country likes him.
So, Manny, let me ask you this: what is your personal opinion on Guzman? Because I've listened.
My personal opinion on what? I didn't hear the last. Personal opinion on what?
Chapo.
El Chapo.
Oh, Chapo. He's been a class act. He's got a lot of money and stuff like that, and it's almost like the days of Pancho Villa. The American government made Pancho Villa look like a criminal, and then one day somebody just said, "Well, wait a minute."
Well,
can I say this
y'all
about
viewing, or a majority of Mexicans are viewing him as Pancho Villa? That's very interesting to me, really.
Yeah, exactly. Because think about it. Here in the United States, the United States government is telling the Mexican government, bring that guy over here because he's a criminal and stuff like that. But yet the people said, wait a minute, you applaud Robin Hood, but you make Pancho Villa a criminal. Well, our Pancho Villa is our Robin Hood. So if you praise your Robin Hood, you should be praising our Robin Hood because he's basically not taking away from the poor. He's taking away from the rich, what used to be was our money anyway. He's taking it back and giving it back to the poor. That's a Robin Hood. Feeling for his own good.
And I completely agree with you, but also too, I see both perspectives as an American, and then as the Mexican perspective. Saying, of course, this is the giving back to the poor. Pancho Villa. That's. I was actually shocked that you even compared it. That he's even being compared to that. But unfortunately, that's just this contemporary era that we're experiencing right now. That we, I guess, as Americans, are subjected because number one, he's sending billions and billions of dollars of drugs across the border to the United States and across the world, rather, that are killing human beings. But as you're saying too, of course, he's bringing that money back and making the community there better. And with that, I guess the whole Pancho Villa.
Yeah, but you got to see the other side of the coin too. It's like as Chapo says. My partners in the business, my partners in the business to bring drugs to the United States is the CIA. So figure that one out.
Well, and that's a whole different subject that we could go into, but we'd probably need another hour to discuss that on how the CIA is probably allowing that, and not probably, but is allowing that. As we've seen with our ex-Attorney General with the whole Fast and Furious program, but we won't get into that because we don't have enough time, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that because I want you to know, if people in the cartels down there, everybody says it in Latin America, it's what keeps Wall Street going because that's a lot of money. That is a big business.
It keeps it's not just Wall Street. Mexico's a part of it too. It's globalization. It's all it's not just Wall Street. It's everywhere. Unfortunately,
when they arrested Arellano Felix, he smiled at the DEA. He said, "Number one, I've already been replaced, and number two, you can't put me out of business because you're our number one customer." He was saying that to the United States, smiling when he was going to jail.
I completely hear on that. Let me change subject real quick though, and ask you a personal question. A personal question for me, or maybe for a majority of Americans. As an American citizen, of course, we do. We are a little concerned, a lot concerned on the amount of immigrants coming across the border. Granted, we're not Donald Trump. We don't think that all Mexicans are rapists or drug dealers. Not at all.
I'm not concerned about it. Let them come over.
Exactly.
I'm not
they
either.
Actually, they support our economy, and I'm for that. But my number one concern is the border security. For instance, we have this whole Middle Eastern war going on with terrorists, or anybody who hates America. They can easily fly to Mexico and then cross the border and then attack us as citizens. So I'm sorry?
That was correct.
And so as a country, what are y'all, implementing or trying to do to help us in that aspect?
Well, Mexico's not doing nothing because the U.S. government is telling them we have to keep this money coming, to you guys so that it looks like we're fighting the drug war. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's the thing nobody gets is that the Mexican government is an arm of the U.S. government, and it's all a big ruse is to play up the drug war into this situation. So to sit here and insinuate and to demonize people for the most absolutely ridiculous things ever is asinine to me. And they want to sit here and play it off as this or that. And of course, it all goes back to the drug war and what's going on down in Mexico with the drug war and why the cartels are able to succeed is because of the drug war. And as long as Mexico has harsh drug laws and the United States keeps their laws in place, that's going to succeed.
I agree.
But nobody cares about the people, and it's all this pretending about the people, and they care about your welfare and my welfare. Nobody cares about that. Nobody cares. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. No. They don't care about if you're from Baja, California, or you're from California.
The majority doesn't care about it. But again, pertaining back to that question, though, Manny, what do you think as an a Mexican citizen, y'all should do to contribute, into helping secure our border, so that way our politicians don't have
what is it their business? What do they care? Who cares? Like, that's a stupid question to me. Like, what?
I mean, they can do things as if, check passports that come in, do whole security
Let me
checks
tell
and
you
things.
what, they're in the middle of a major war down in
Anyway,
Mexico. Do you
yeah,
think
it's a
any
civil
of them?
war.
Do you think any of them have time to get money for a fucking passport? They don't. Their family members are getting slaughtered. People are
I'm
getting
not
killed.
saying the
Let me tell you what.
I'm
Now,
saying the
this is a
I'm
sensitive
asking-
subject to me. People are getting fucking killed down there, man. They don't have time for that shit.
Yeah. Actually, I come from a state where the 43 students got killed by the government and stuff like that. That's how bad it is. It happened in my home state of Guerrero.
And Manny,
You know,
I'm not trying to be, completely just, not regarding what's going on down there, which I know is completely terrible. I mean,
It's
y'all are
a
essentially
war
in
down
a
there.
civil
It's not
war.
just
And
a
not
gang war.
this is
It's a war.
civil war.
Well, let me explain it to you this way
Mexican
because let me explain it to you this way because I'm not biased because I see both sides. The bottom line, the immigrant that comes from down there, we don't come down here. I don't care what immigrant comes from anywhere. We come to work. We didn't come to this country to commit crimes because the bottom line, we can commit crimes in our own country. I have to commit crimes in Mexico and make myself a wealthy person working for those guys up there. But
Right.
no, I didn't want to. I wanted to come and have an honest job, stuff like that. So
Exactly.
we come down here. Now the U.S. government calls it immigration, but if you think about it, I don't feel like we as people around the world immigrate. It's the borders that the government puts up there. We shouldn't be calling ourselves immigrating. We should call ourselves migrating, which is a big difference. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well,
But there's a good portion of this
You're
stuff.
migrating here, and then once you're here, you're an immigrant. I mean, Manny,
No.
I don't object to that. I've got Mexican heritage. I am actually the epitome of the American melting pot. I have Mexican heritage. I have English heritage. I have German heritage. I have French heritage. Irish
Who
heritage.
cares who's-
Everything.
Who cares?
I am the epitome of what America is. So that's why I agree.
Who cares? Who cares? Listen, everybody's so hung up on this heritage or where you were born or this.
All I'm
Like
trying
Danny
to
just
say
said,
is-
it's
Amen.
bogus.
Amen.
It's bogus.
Amen.
No, it is
Amen.
bogus. I don't give
Coming
a
here.
crap about your ancestors. I don't care about my ancestors.
Exactly.
I
What I'm
don't.
trying
I don't.
to
I
say.
care about the people on this planet today that want to work and provide for themselves. And for you to sit here and tell me because your ancestors, I don't care.
I
People
don't
that are alive
care
on this
either.
planet today need to be able to provide for
Hey,
themselves.
and it's
They
not
want to
only
provide
that,
for
it's
their
to be able to
families for a
escape
better
from a
life.
dangerous environment. Nobody wants their
Exactly.
children
It's
living
insane.
in a poverty and
Well,
dangerous
insane.
environment, man. That's what it's all about. Nobody wants their kids living in a dangerous environment.
Anyways, Manny, going back to you. I'm sorry about that, but
Well, Manny, I'm going to rip it when I feel it.
Yeah, me too.
Oh yeah, well,
I know.
well,
That's Gibson will.
it's just that people have this fear. The government likes to put fear in people about the people coming here. Number one, nobody's illegal. We're undocumented. Big difference. There's no such thing as illegal.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say earlier. The many questions I was asking you. I mean, one, again, a majority of Americans think that this is occurring. That even Donald Trump himself can make these racist comments against Mexicans and then still progress in the polls is because of the whole entire influx of immigrants from Mexico that they think are just terrible. Oh, this whole border issue, blah blah blah, which is it's stupid. It's subjective. It's stupid.
Okay.
Honestly, especially when
you know what the conversation is with the Tea Party, because I'm a very peaceful protester. There's no such thing as bad language. I don't use the word hate. I just go to educate people. And this is what I tell people when they read the history. I tell people, look, you're telling us to go back, yet you took this country away from Mexico by force and stuff like that. Now, forget about Mexico. When people say to me, go back, I'm saying, wait a minute, are you Native American? No. Then what are you telling me to go back for? Because, I'm supposed to be supposedly in red man land, you know what I mean? And stuff like that, So people got their history all messed up. They got to get into the history books and stuff like that. Another thing I tell people take everything for granted here as far as the Constitution. I know the Constitution better than some people actually most people that were born here. Why? Because I had to pass a test to become a U.S. citizen, and it's 100 questions, and you got to know what you're talking about, or you don't pass the test,
Mm-hmm. And I tell you what, I think you just nailed it. I think you just nailed it on the head, Manny. And me and you completely agree on this. And to me, sitting here saying your heritage is this or it's that, like, I know how I view things. And you know what? I don't care where your parents were born, Manny. I don't care where my parents were born. I don't care if they're black, Mexican, white, whatever. You know what? We are who we are, born where we were, and we're people trying to survive day to day, and we should take care and look out for each other. Period. Period.
Exactly.
And it's nonsense. It's nonsense
It
to
is
sit here
nonsense.
and say, but your heritage is from this
But
place.
what
It's
I'm
like, are you
getting-
serious? Like
what
your
I'm-
heritage is from some place?
SM,
No,
what
I
I'm
don't care.
getting at
It's my
is-
show, and I'm cutting it off right now. Because you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about people getting together and loving each other. And this is nonsense that they want to sit here and talking about you're from this place or have this division.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
It's
I'm saying you're
bogus.
100% behind you. But we, as a people, have to figure out where this is coming from and why it's happening.
It's coming from control. People want to control you, and they want to keep you divided. That's where it's coming from.
Hey, you're completely right. We just need to say, fuck the government and rise up. Everywhere.
Look,
every nation.
We could.
Well, I'm not opposed to that idea.
It's
That's
about
just-
people taking care of themselves and their own community.
And start treating people like human beings need to be treated.
We're all brothers and sisters, really. To be honest with you.
That's it. Because you know what? Manny, you were born on a different side of the world than me. There's no difference between me and you. We've met each other. One of the greatest experiences of my life. Loved it. We're brothers.
Oh, man, I appreciate that and stuff like that. I mean, I was just like, wow, kind of meeting you. It's just like, wow, I never expected it in my wildest dream to actually have you come down here, and I didn't even know about it. I'm like, wow, that was great, actually.
I felt the same way. I mean, it was just a huge experience.
Brother Manny, I want you to. I hope you come down to Birmingham one day, man. We'd love to have you out here, man.
I might take you up on it. I appreciate that. I know because you're saying it from your heart. You're not just saying it for the hell of it. I know that.
No,
You know, I
man.
feel it.
And Manny, I definitely have had a good time speaking to you tonight. I hope we have plenty of other opportunities. And actually, I would definitely love to meet you in person.
All right. I appreciate it, guys. SM,
Thank you,
lots
man.
of love to you, man.
Lots
From
of
down
love.
here in Hollywood, okay?
Yes, sir.
Take it easy, buddy.
Man, yeah, Manny's one of my favorite people in the world.
He's he's very.
He knows the score. I mean, period. He
He's
knows
a
what's going on.
He's like,
He's
the epitome of the anti-media here in the United States. But
He's also a veteran activist. He's done a lot.
Unfortunately,
Man.
if only Mexico had a better infrastructure where.
But here's the thing. I think Chase just nailed it on the head. He's better an activist. And the situation is, as an activist, Manny doesn't have this liberal agenda or this conservative agenda or whatever you want to call it.
He has a people agenda.
He has the agenda for the people. That's it. And
He
that's
has
why I
a-
had such a respect for Manny.
Yeah, he has a big
Is-
heart. And that's
Right,
what
because
everyone should have.
he's looking out for people. He doesn't care about your politics or your views. It's about the person and about the presentation, about how we can take care of everybody.
And I think you kind of took me out of context earlier, I will admit. Because, you know me, I'm the same way, like Manny. I've got the big heart. But I am the analyst who, views it how it is, on many perspectives. And I try to figure out how do we get better at this. As a nation, not only as a nation, as a world.
We drop the hate. It's really that simple. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy.
It's
I know
not
it.
that simple. That's a simple answer to it, but it's a very, very complex equation.
If everybody
to
got
get
over
to that
look,
point.
fear, we got a minute left. Here's the thing. Let me explain this
I
to
wish we
everybody.
would've,
There is a
many
choice.
things
Bill
we would've
Hicks said it. There is a choice right now between fear and love. You have a choice to do one or the other. You can choose fear or you can choose love. That is what you have in your life right now. If you want to choose fear, go for it. And you're going to feel compelled to be scared of these things and these people that they're talking about. If you want to choose love, you're going to be open and love the people around you and love the people next to you, regardless of their skin color or what they say, because you're going to know that they're just like you and there's an inherent love within you next to them.
And that is a beautiful quote, I will admit. It really is. But unfortunately, that's one quote of 7-point-something billion right now.
Well, you know what? I don't
So,
really care. But I tell you what, join Nick tomorrow night on Anti-Media Radio. Me and Shannon will be back on Thursday. Anti-Media Radio out. Love y'all.
Bye, y'all.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.